Mr. Crosby here, and I'm going to be taking you through a GCSE mock question, and I've selected June 2012. Okay, we're going to be looking at question 1 from that paper, and the reason we do this is so that by the time you go into your GCSE exams, you'll have had plenty of practice on these style questions, and you'll be incredibly confident. You won't be cowering, looking like you're about to be pushed into the water like this sorry man here. Now, question 1 is going to be in 2 parts. You're going to have part A, part B. We'll come on to part B in a minute. We're going to focus on part A. And this question asks you, what is the message of the cartoon? Okay, you get given a source A, and you've got to figure out what the message is. And there's a number of things we've got to do to get the full 7 marks here, and they're down the side. Okay, so we're going to look at what our answer should be looking like compared to the mark scheme. And you can see that the first 3 levels here, okay, the marks are divided into levels. Okay, so up to mark 4 out of 7 even, we're not even identifying the main message of the source. It's incredibly important. So you can see here, surface features only. Okay, so that's the sort of thing I could say without knowing really anything about the topic at all. And then level 2 and level 3 are the secondary message. Okay, not quite what the cartoonist was wanting us to think about, but something that we might still get from the source. But we're really going to look at level 4 and beyond, okay? And you can see that in all 3, level 4, 5, 6, for 5, 6 and 7 marks, all of them talk about the main message, okay? If you don't have the main message, then you are not going to be getting above 4 marks. You can see in this case that the mark scheme has stated that the main message should relate to Germany being forced or given no choice in how severely they will be treated at the peace discussions. Now, the exam mark scheme gives examples here, okay? They're not expecting you to have word for word what they've got. They just want you to get the sense that there's a lack of choice in how they're going to be treated, okay? So one example is to literally state that, given no choice and is being forced. However, if you look at the next example, Germany deserves to be punished, and they're getting their just deserves. Okay. Key word here is deserves, because in reality, the secondary message that they have given an example of is Germany is being punished. Saying that Germany is being punished is not enough. This is a bit too factual, just being punished by the Allies, when in reality we know that cartoons want to persuade or get across a deeper meaning than that. Now, if we look at the other 2 examples, scared of facing up to what's going to happen to them, or realizing the consequences, okay, of defeat. So you can see here that both of these examples, again, are showing Germany's, not just Germany's situation, but a response to that situation. So you might not have in your answer any of these 4 examples, but you must have had something more than just what is going to happen in 1919. There must be some sort of idea about how this situation should be viewed. So, first thing we must definitely have in our answer is the main message, okay? So, we want the main message there. And my advice is to make this your first sentence in your answer, okay? The message of the cartoon. If you look here in the first example, the message of the cartoon, okay? Great way to start. You tick the box straight away. Then if you notice in the question, it does state use details of the cartoon and your own knowledge to explain your answer, okay? And that is how we're going to get into level 5 and level 6. And it's worth pointing out that in the mark scheme it says main message of the cartoon supported by details of the cartoon. Supported. Okay? And that is really essential because you can't just state what you can see in the cartoon. You can't just state your own knowledge about this topic, it's got to be backing up your main message. Okay, start with your main message and then go on to these. So let's quickly look at the source itself and see what we can see. So the first thing I'm going to be looking at is, well, I can see in the caption this is 1919 and it's Britain, so it's a British perspective. 1919, it's commenting on the Paris Peace Conference. Okay, therefore if I just state that, that's not using my own knowledge, but it does make me start to think about the topic that I want to be drawing from in terms of my own knowledge. The caption actually, at the time that the cartoon had, the finishing touch. That's really important because it's showing that Germany, this is all that is going to that's all that's going to be needed for Germany to topple. Okay, obviously relating to what the Allies on the hand are going to do. Okay, I can also see that I've got the word peace discussions here. Okay, and I'm definitely going to be drawn to the fact that this is Germany, and that Germany is looking very, very scared, very wimpish in this sense. Now, whilst I'd definitely go in and write the main message as my first sentence in the exam, I would actually have looked at these first, because although you want to structure your answer so that you have your main message and then it's supported by details and your own knowledge, actually by looking at the source in this way first, you are going to have a better chance of getting the main message in the first place. So look at these, then state the main message, and then you want to start bringing them into your actual answer to help support your conclusion. By conclusion, I mean the first sentence, not like a final paragraph. Now, if I've just brought in details or contextual knowledge, okay, then I can get 6 out of 7. If I've done both and contextual knowledge as well, I can get 7. Okay, so either or 6, both 7. Now let's look at what this would look like. So if we look at the first example in level 5, then we can see that in the cartoon, the figure of Germany is being pushed by the hand of the Allies off a diving board into deep-looking water. Okay, that is directly supporting the notion that they are being forced to accept the treaty. Okay, they're being pushed, okay, by the hand. Okay, so you're using details to support it. Okay, I'm not just going to say that Germany is giving no force in the treaty. In the cartoon, there is a big hand. Okay, I'm not showing that the details are actually supporting the main message. So it's not enough to just drop down details. You can see, make sure that they're relevant to your main message. So the next thing I want to make sure is in my answer are details from the source. Okay, so that's our next thing here. So main message, details, and then if we look at the other example, it says that again you've got that same sentence. The message of the cartoon is Germany is being given no choice and is being forced to accept the treaty. You've got 5 marks. The Paris peace discussions are taking place. I've got that from the Paris Peace Conference here. That's not quite contextual knowledge. However, Germany has not been invited to the negotiation, simply has to accept the terms. Okay, so I've brought in my own knowledge there. I could even say that Germany initially tried to reject the terms, but then were forced to accept the terms, if I want to go even a little bit further than the mark scheme here. So our last thing that we need is own knowledge. Okay, I'll stick that down there. So those are our 3 things we need for this type of question. Okay, so I want you to pause the video at this stage. If you're working in pairs, you can do this by swapping your answers. If not, or at least compare, if you're working on your own, just do it with your own answer. And I want you to go through, look at whether you've included all of these things, how well have you done them, and then maybe set some targets. If you've done it really well but your partner has struggled, or vice versa, maybe compare and see what the difference was between your answers and why there was that difference in the marks that you each got. Now, moving on to part B, and here we've got a classic explain type question, okay? And it's very, very similar to every other explain type question. Here it's for 8 marks, some of the other ones in the paper are 6 marks, but you're essentially doing very similar things for any explain question, okay? And the key question in an explain question is why, and I'll show you why, that sounds a bit weird, why the word why is so key here, okay? Our question: explain why Clemenceau and Lloyd George disagreed over how to treat Germany. And this is key because if we look at level 2, we can see identifies or describes reasons here. We've got loads of reasons here that you might have come up with, but just stating them like this will only get you 3 or 4 marks, okay? And what's the reason for that? Well, if we take just any of these, okay, Clemenceau wanted France secure in the future. He wanted revenge on Germany. Lloyd George wanted to protect the British Navy, okay? These are things that they disagreed over, okay? But if I was to read this as an examiner, I would still be asking the question why. Okay, you've not actually stated why this was something that they disagreed over. So I've identified reasons, but I've not actually explained them. Okay, so a good rule of thumb: can I ask the question why still in relation to the question? If I can, then I've only identified or described the reasons. Now, level 3, if I've explained one reason, I'm going to get 5 or 6 out of 8, okay? Depending on how good and how developed here my explanation is, okay? So we've got some examples here, and we'll come back to them in a minute. Now, but if we just look, explains more than one reason, okay? Now, that's what we're going to need to get 7 or 8 marks, okay? 7 marks for 2 basic explanations, okay, or 8 marks for 3 basic, or development of 2 explanations, okay. So I would say you want to be looking at it's much better to get the 2 developed explanations. So that means we need 2 reasons explained, okay. There we go. Now if we look at the examples, okay, there's a funny phrase at the start here. I'm just going to explain what they mean by this. So, matching pairs are acceptable, i.e. sequential explanations with implied comparison. What does that mean in plain English? Well, basically, they're saying that they will accept as a reason for disagreement an explanation as to how Clemenceau wanted one treatment of Germany, whilst Lloyd George wanted another treatment of Germany, okay? Because there is an idea that there is a difference there, even though you've not stated exactly that they've fallen out or disagreed over that point, because they're taking different sides over an issue, okay? Now, I think that's quite a lot of work for just one reason, okay? Because you're effectively dealing with 2 paragraphs there, okay? However, if you explain specific point of difference, okay, I think that's a little bit easier if you're looking for 2 marks with limited 2 reasons with limited time, okay? Let's look at the example here. Clemenceau wanted to secure France. He felt concerned that Britain wanted to treat Germany fairly in Europe, where France rather than Britain was under most threat, whilst Lloyd George was less happy to allow Germany to keep its colonies and navies, which would have been more of a threat to Britain. Essentially, this paragraph is arguing about where Germany should have been punished, okay? France wanted Germany punished in Europe, okay, because that is where they could threaten France in the future, whereas Britain, being a big colonial power with navy, wanted Germany to be punished more in terms of its colonies and navy, okay? Just for completion's sake, so that you know that there are 2 possible reasons, you might also have talked about the difference in the way the war had affected France and Britain, with France obviously and Belgium, but France taking the brunt of the destruction of its cities and a higher casualty toll than Britain, which did not need to rebuild. So that there's another potential reason I might have gone into. So you can see for these developed explanations, there's some very, very precise understanding going on here. Okay, we've got colonies and navy mentioned. We've got in Europe. Okay, the sense of these are related specifically to the treaty. Because these are to do with terms of the treaty. So we can see here that the answer is drawing on good contextual knowledge. So that's the end of this video. I want you to now again go back, if you've got a pair, compare your answers. If not, back to your own answer again. Okay, have you got your two reasons? Okay, do you have two clear reasons? Are they laid out in separate paragraphs? Okay, are they explained? Am I left asking the question why still, or have I actually explained why this led to disagreement over how to treat Germany? And have I really developed these? Have I used precise knowledge about the peace discussions, the war, the context of the treaty, etc. Okay, have I brought that in? Okay, compare your answers, see where one or both of you have fallen down, and see if you can come up with some targets to improve your next explain style answer.